To my family, I was the invisible daughter, useful only for cooking holiday meals. They never asked about my life, so they never knew I was building a multi-million-dollar company in secret. When they demanded I serve my sister's powerful friends on Christmas Eve, I finally chose myself. That choice led to my face on the cover of Forbes and my family's carefully curated reputation going up in flames. My name is Lily Sullivan, and I'm 32 years old. For 15 years, my wealthy parents treated me like their personal servant while my younger sister, Sarah, lived like royalty. Every holiday, every family gathering, I was in the kitchen while she entertained guests. But last Christmas Eve, when my mother demanded I cook for 25 of Sarah's VIP friends with just 24 hours notice, something inside me finally snapped. What happened next didn't just change our family dynamic, it exposed a secret that left everyone, including a Fortune 500 CEO, completely speechless. I was in my Manhattan apartment, carefully folding clothes into my suitcase, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Mom, and I already knew this wouldn't be a pleasant conversation. In our Connecticut family home, I knew that Christmas decorations would be sparkling on every surface because I'd been the one hanging them every year since I was 17. Lily, cancel whatever silly plans you have for tomorrow, my mother, Margaret, said without even a hello. Her voice had that familiar, commanding tone that brooked no argument. I continued folding a business blazer into my suitcase. What's happening tomorrow? I asked, keeping my voice even. Sarah's hosting her networking group for Christmas Eve dinner. Very important people, Lily. 25 guests, including executives from Pinnacle Corporation. She paused, and I could practically hear her smirk through the phone. You'll need to arrive by noon to start cooking. 7 main courses, 10 sides. The menu is already planned. My fingers tightened on my phone. Sarah's networking group. Of course. My younger sister worked in PR and never missed an opportunity to remind everyone how connected she was. Mom, I have plans. Your sister is making important connections that benefit this family, she snapped. You should be grateful to help. It's not like you have anything else going on. Her words cut like they always did. I glanced at my laptop where an email from Victoria Chen, CEO of Pinnacle Hospitality, glowed on the screen. If only my mother knew. Use the good china, she continued, her voice crisp. These are your usual crowd, Lily. These are people who matter. People who matter, unlike me, apparently. I'll text you the menu, she said. Don't embarrass us. The line went dead. I looked down at my plane ticket to Florida. Departure time, 8 o'clock tomorrow evening. My hand wasn't even shaking anymore. After 15 years of this, I'd finally learned the difference between their emergency and my priority. I sat on my bed, memories flooding back like a bitter tide. 15 years of being invisible, except when they needed something. Every Thanksgiving since I was 17, Lily will handle the cooking while Sarah entertains our guests. Every Christmas, Lily's between jobs again, but at least she's useful in the kitchen. The last family party had been the worst. Sarah's engagement celebration, 200 guests at the country club. I'd spent 14 hours in the kitchen preparing appetizers while Sarah held court in a $3,000 dress our parents had bought her. When one of the guests asked what I did for a living, my mother had actually laughed. Lily doesn't have Sarah's social skills, she'd said, but she cooks well. I stood up and walked to my closet, pulling out my second suitcase. Inside, carefully protected in a leather folder, was the contract that would change everything. My company's name, Stellar Events, was embossed in gold at the top. For 5 years, I'd built my empire in silence. 50 employees across 3 locations, a client list that included luxury resorts and Fortune 500 companies. And tomorrow, while my family expected me to slave over their stove, I had a meeting that would secure a $2 million contract. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah. Mom says you're cooking tomorrow. Don't screw it up. Important people will be there. Not this time, I whispered to the empty room. For once, they have to figure it out themselves. I had a plane to catch. The deepest cut was that they'd never even been curious. Not once in 5 years had anyone in my family asked, "So, Lily, what exactly do you do all day?" They created their own narrative. Poor Lily can't hold down a job. Lives in a studio apartment. It was actually a 2-bedroom condo. Probably surviving on savings from grandma. I'd invested that money into my business. At least she can cook. I employed 3 executive chefs. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder, and reality hit me like cold water. The Pinnacle Hospitality contract wasn't just another deal. It was the deal. $2 million, exclusive catering rights to their 5 Florida resorts. The meeting was December 26th at 9 in the morning, non-negotiable. Victoria Chun, Pinnacle's CEO, had been crystal clear. This contract wasn't just my dream anymore. 50 employees were counting on this expansion. My phone pinged with an email from my mother. The subject line, Urgent Christmas Eve Menu. My stomach turned as I opened it. 7 main courses, 10 sides, dietary restrictions for 5 guests, wine pairings. The level of detail was staggering. At the bottom, she'd added a note. One of them is Victoria from Pinnacle Corporation. She could be valuable for Sarah's career. I nearly dropped my phone.
Victoria Chen.
The same woman I was meeting in Florida was going to be at my parents' house, expecting to be served by their unemployed daughter. I sat down hard on my bed, the weight of the decision crushing me. Stay and serve the woman who was about to make me a millionaire, pretending to be a failure? Or leave, risk my family's wrath, and secure my future? The choice had never been clearer. I picked up my phone and dialed my mother. "Mom," I said, my voice steady. "I can't do it." "What do you mean you can't?" she asked, her voice sharp. "I have a business trip. I'm flying to Florida tonight." She actually laughed, a cruel, disbelieving sound. "Don't be ridiculous. What possible business could you have?" "Lily, stop being selfish. Your sister needs this." "How dare you?" Her voice rose. "When's the last time you asked about my life, Mom? We know about your life. You're between jobs, living in that tiny apartment." "I'm a CEO," I said quietly. Another laugh. "A CEO of what?" "Your imaginary company." "It's not imaginary. I have 50 employees." "Lily, enough with the fantasies. Family comes first. If you leave, don't bother coming back." The threat hung between us, the same one she'd used so many times before. Usually, I caved. "Then, I guess this is goodbye," I said. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but for the first time in 15 years, it wasn't from fear. It was from freedom. My phone immediately exploded with texts from Sarah. "What did you just do?" "Mom's having a meltdown. Stop being so dramatic and get over here." I turned off my phone and finished packing. The plane lifted off from JFK at exactly 8:07 p.m. I finally exhaled. Below me, Connecticut disappeared into a blur of lights. I pulled out my laptop. An email from Victoria was waiting. "Looking forward to finally meeting you in person, Lily. I've been following Stellar Events' growth for 2 years. Your reputation precedes you." My reputation. If only she knew that at that very moment, I was supposed to be serving her dinner at my parents' house. Another email caught my eye, from Victoria herself. "Lily, I'll be arriving late to tomorrow's dinner, coming straight from a social obligation in Connecticut. Hope that's all right." I smiled. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. While I slept peacefully in my Florida suite, chaos reigned in Connecticut. The texts I read the next morning painted a vivid picture. By 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, my mother had realized I wasn't coming. 25 hungry guests were arriving in an hour. Sarah's panic texts told the story. "Mom's losing it. Calling every restaurant. Everything's closed. How could you do this to us?" At 7 p.m. sharp, the guests started arriving, including Victoria Chin. They came expecting an elaborate, home-cooked Christmas dinner. Instead, they got delivery pizza. Sarah's text at 7:52 p.m. "We're serving Papa John's. Pizza, Lily. On Waterford, Crystal. Do you understand what you've done?" Another at 8:30. Victoria Chun looks disgusted. "Mom is telling everyone you're mentally unstable and the family disappointment." The party was over by 9:30. Everyone left early. The pre-meeting dinner at the Pinnacle Resort was scheduled for 7 p.m. I arrived early, composed and confident. Victoria Chin walked in looking tired, but greeted me warmly. "Lily," she said, "I have to apologize for being late. I just flew in from the most bizarre Christmas Eve party in Connecticut." My heart rate stayed steady. "Oh, what happened?" "You won't believe this," she said, shaking her head. "I was invited to what was supposed to be an elegant dinner. The hostess, Margaret Sullivan, actually, same last name as you, funny coincidence, had promised this elaborate meal prepared by her daughter. We arrived to find absolute chaos. No food, and the hostess scrambling to order pizza. That must have been awkward, I said, keeping my face a mask of polite interest. It gets worse. She spent the entire evening bad-mouthing her older daughter, calling her unreliable, mentally unstable, a disappointment. Apparently, this daughter was supposed to cook everything, but just disappeared.
Victoria Post.
It was the most unprofessional evening I've ever experienced. The woman actually said her daughter was too stupid to hold a real job, so she usually just cooked for them. The next morning, I stood in Pinnacle's boardroom, ready to present. Everything was going perfectly until Victoria's assistant walked in with an iPad. "Ms. Chun, you need to see this. There's a photo from that Connecticut party going viral on LinkedIn." Victoria took the iPad, and I watched her face change from curiosity to confusion to complete shock. She looked up at me, then back at the screen. "Lily," she said slowly, "this family photo from the Sullivan house, is this you?" Someone had posted a picture from my parents' wall, one where I stood in the background while Sarah posed front and center. I nodded.
Yes.
"Margaret Sullivan is my mother." The room went completely silent. "The woman," Victoria said, her voice incredulous, "who called you unreliable, mentally unstable, and unemployable is your mother." "Yes." "She doesn't know about stellar events? Your own mother doesn't know you're a CEO?" "She never asked," I replied simply. Victoria started laughing, a genuine booming laugh. "Oh my God." She spent the entire evening complaining about her disappointment of a daughter, and that daughter is you, the CEO I've been trying to partner with for 2 years. Before I could respond, her assistant rushed in again. "Ms. Chun, you'll want to see this. Forbes just announced their 40 under 40 cover story for tomorrow." He projected it onto the boardroom screen. There I was, professional headshot, front and center with the headline, "From Invisible to Invaluable, How Lily Sullivan Built a Catering Empire Without a Dollar of Family Money." Victoria read the preview aloud. "Sullivan, 32, built stellar events from a $5,000 investment into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, deliberately avoiding any family connections or support." She looked at me. "This goes live tonight at midnight. Your family still doesn't know. They will when everyone else does." Victoria stood up. "I need to make a phone call." She stepped out of the room, and we could see her through the glass, talking animatedly. She returned 5 minutes later with a strange smile. "I just called Margaret Sullivan," she said. "I told her I was very disappointed in last night's event. She begged me to reconsider, said it was all her older daughter's fault."
Victoria Post.
Then I told her I'd just signed a $2 million contract with the most talented entrepreneur I know. She asked who. I said, "Your daughter, Lily Sullivan, CEO of Stellar Events." The sound she made, Victoria continued, was like all the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Then she hung up on me. My phone, which had been on silent, showed 47 missed calls in the last 3 minutes, all from my mother. Victoria extended her hand. "Miss Sullivan, let's sign this contract. I believe we have a partnership to celebrate." As I signed my name, my phone lit up with a text from my father. "Your mother just fainted. What the hell is Stellar Events?" The fallout was swift and brutal, but not for me. Within 48 hours, my family's carefully curated reputation had crumbled. Sarah's panic text told the story. "Pinnacle just canceled our PR contract. Victoria Chin said they don't work with people who lack family values." That was a $500,000 annual loss. Mom got removed from the charity board. Dad's golf buddies are asking him how he didn't know his own daughter was a millionaire. The Forbes article had gone viral in their social circle. The headline alone was damning, but the quote that really destroyed them was this: "My family assumed I was unemployed. It was easier to build an empire in silence than to fight their assumptions." My father finally called me directly. "Lily," he began, his voice heavy with shame, "I need to say something. I knew you were doing something with catering. I saw a business registration years ago, but your mother, she was so certain about who you were supposed to be. I should have spoken up.
I'm ashamed.
Your success is remarkable, and we missed it because we weren't looking." 3 months later, I agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant in Manhattan, my territory. They looked smaller, their arrogance gone. Before they could speak, I set down a single sheet of paper. "These are my terms," I said. It listed 5 points: equal respect, no more servant treatment, public acknowledgement of my success, a genuine apology, and family therapy. "This is non-negotiable," I told them. "I'll be your daughter, not your servant." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Lily, we've lost everything." "That's not my responsibility, Mom." Sarah spoke for the first time, her voice quiet. "I was jealous. You were always better at everything, but Mom made me feel special by making you feel small."
I see how sick that was now.
"I go to therapy." "I'm sorry," my mother whispered. "Not just for Christmas Eve, but for 15 years of blindness." 6 months later, I hosted my first family dinner in my apartment, the 2-bedroom condo they'd never known existed. My team from Stellar Events catered it. That was a boundary I would never cross again. As they sat at my table, served by my employees, the role reversal wasn't lost on anyone. But this wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. "I want to be clear about something," I said, raising my glass. "Success doesn't need permission. Self-worth doesn't require validation. And respect is non-negotiable." My mother nodded. Sarah's PR firm, now humbled, had submitted a proposal to work with my company. It was good. We were considering it. My father now introduced me as my daughter, the CEO, with genuine pride. But the biggest change was in me. I no longer dimmed my light to make others comfortable. My company had grown to 100 employees. The Food Network documentary had aired. And every single morning, I looked in the mirror and reminded myself, I am Lily Sullivan, CEO. Never the family servant. Never again.